This technique we'll cover in this video will be pretty useful. We need to create accessories of the character, or when we need to create the clothes in general terms, since we can take a portion of the body of the character and get the pieces from there. That ensures we get the pieces with right size. In order to do so, we'll need the mesh to have a bit more quantity of polygons, so the shape we'll generate looks way more polished. I recommend then to duplicate this subtool. Alright, in this case, let's leave this subtool with 2 subdivisions. We need it, as I said, to have enough polygons. Let's head to geometry and hit delete lower, delete higher. Let's remove the subdivisions we won't need. The next step is to use the mask, lasso type, and we'll generate the shape of the piece we need to generate. In this case, let's generate some straps the character has got on the chest, over here, and over here. Alright. After that, we come over here to the panel under subtools to an option called split. Over here we find something called split mask point. After applying it, what happens is that the mask geometry becomes a completely independent tool. This will be kind of the base for our strap. If we unhide the geometry, we'll see it looks kind of jagged, odd. It's not polished enough. So in order to fix this, we'll simply head to geometry again, and we'll hit on an option called group loops, which is located here under edge loop. In case it's collapsed, it's this one, group loops. However, before we press it, let's check something. This piece has got several polygroups. This may generate some kind of cuts, undesired cuts. It'll separate this piece from this one, and we need everything to be in one. Simply by hitting Ctrl W, we convert it into a single polygroup, and then we can apply group loops. What this option does is to generate kind of a border like the one we see over here, which tries to keep the mesh more polished, more curved, avoiding cutting edges. It smooths a lot these areas. It altered the mesh totally. But at least it's accomplished the goal, which was to remove that jagged shape. Over here, we'll simply start to organize a bit the shape of the piece. If we need to smooth it, we do so, there is no problem. Over here, the brush move will be pretty useful. Try to avoid these kind of curves. It should be more straight. The intention is to leave the strap as polished as possible. We've brought a piece we didn't need. Taking advantage of the situation that happened, to avoid making the whole piece again, simply hide this portion. Also this one, using lasso. Let's hide this section over here. And over here, we'll find on the geometry an option called Modify Topology. Over here, we can simply apply delete hidden to delete that part we've hidden. And that's it. Let's convert all this into a polygroup. And in order to avoid this part getting jagged, again, let's apply groups loops. Over here, we've got kind of a cutting edge, but that's no problem. This way, we've resolved the problem we had with that cutting edge. Alright, let's leave it there for the time being. I think it is even enough. What we have here is that the mesh is a bit messy still. There are lots of pieces or lots of polygons without the right order. In order to fix this piece, simply head to the option Zero Measure and we'll apply a quick Zero Measure. Polygons count on 3 would be more than enough and hit Zero Measure. An important recommendation, sometimes this keeps groups if enabled. Disable it, these keep groups might generate some issues. I'll try to keep these polygroups we already had separated, and it could cause some damage. So we better keep these disabled. Okay, now Zero Measure. And this way, we've got a more consistent mesh to start generating the details. If we still see a messy mesh, maybe around the borders or something like that, we again apply it quickly, and that way we get a more organized mesh. A mesh like this, with few polygons, is more than enough for this case, and in fact, it's pretty good, because it lets us work with more ease. With the brush move, or using the transpose, it lets us modify it way easier. Let's head again to the body, Ctrl Z. If we hit Ctrl Z after we have extracted the piece to the original body, we get back the whole geometry. Alright, let's apply this same process then to the strap it's got on the arm, to the gloves, or to the bandage he's got here on the gloves. In this case, it reaches this portion of the fingers. Over here, it'll be a bit longer, this portion here, up to this portion more or less. And it'll slightly cover this portion of the fingers. Let's make another strap over here. And also, we'll apply it to the shorts the character will have. In this case, the symmetry could be useful. Okay, let's carry out the same process. Important tip, try to leave this upper part, as flattened as possible. After some minutes, repeating the same technique, adjusting using move, and organizing a bit the shapes of the piece, we got a result like this. Let's apply some transparency in order to see it better. We've got some pieces separated, which will serve as base for generating those details. At this point, some tips I can give away are: when we get some pieces not so easy to flatten, sometimes it can be difficult using the brush move. You can use the brush S polish or H polish. This could help making it flatter as the surface of the piece. Let's make a test. With the first one we had already done, let's enable solo for a moment, and we'll see these imperfections will be flattened way easier. So the brush edge polish could be a huge help in that case. The other tip: try to be careful on this area of the globes. Here in the middle, over here, it could get a bit difficult sometimes to sculpt that area. So I'd recommend to be careful with that area. The other tip I could give is to take all those pieces, especially those that belong to a specific area, and take them together to a single subtool. That in order to make the job easier and avoid getting a high number of subtools. Later on, it's possible we'll have to separate these pieces in order to add some details to some and some others. But for the time being, to leave them together would be pretty advisable. Hope this technique will be really useful, and I'll see you on the next video.